Okay, so I'm here to wake you up. It won't surprise you that, given I work in the area of sexual violence, that I have spent recent times really thinking about the question of testimony. We've had an extraordinary moment in terms of sexual violence over the last 12, 18 months with the Me Too movement. Every country has had its particular moments in that. In Ireland, we had the Belfast rape trial and we had our referendum. And in all of these, what we have is testimony. It's survivors telling their stories. And in a way that is new and we've never seen the likes of it, the numbers of it. So I've been wondering about testimony and change. And one thing I wonder about is I'm not sure that we have fully explained how testimony causes change. The causal relationship between A and B, there's a few gaps in our narrative there. And I don't know if we've fully explained them, and I wonder what those gaps are about. Is it just that we haven't gotten around to it, or are we avoiding something? But that's not particularly what I want to talk to you about today. What I want to ask is, when we talk about testimony, we talk about the power of testimony. We talk about empowerment. We talk about the positives that come out of it, the relief that comes out of it. We don't often talk about the pain and the cost and the hurt and the price that we ask survivors to pay when they testify. And I'm not talking about the personal disclosures to friends, to agencies, to support, in terms of looking for support and looking for that connection and looking to tell your story in that way. I'm talking about the testimony that you give to the public space to create change. And I want to talk about why that hurts so much, why that is so difficult, because we know it is difficult, although we don't talk about it too much. And the question I want to put to you, or the suggestion I want to make to you today, is that I don't think it has to be that difficult. We can't change the past, it is what it is, but really the testimony itself is a description of the facts of something that happened in the past. That's it. It's a description of those facts. Now, it's something deeply hurtful and painful, and that past we can't change, and it carries that hurt. But a lot of the difficulties in terms of testifying is about what might happen now, what happens when I put my words out there. What will happen to me, what will happen to my words, what will happen to my loved ones. And we control that. So why is it still so difficult? Are we doing the work that we need to be doing? Because we are, in this room, the allies. So what are we doing? And I looked at, and obviously every testimony is unique, and every response is unique. So I'm pulling out a few themes here. And I want to focus on three sort of things that we generally do, not always, but we generally do with testimony. Our first response is shock and horror, amazement. And our second, then, we move very quickly to, we have this person standing in front of us, and we say, look at you, how are you standing here in front of me? Look, your strength, your courage, your bravery, how have you survived? Tell me more about that. And then the third thing we do is, as allies, how do I tell you that I'm on your team? How do I stand with you? How do I take my action to support you in your testimony? #I believe her. And just to give you some heads up here, I'm afraid I'm coming after I believe her. Because I think these three things that we feel are good things are actually part of the problem. So let me take you on a little journey. We have this tradition in Ireland, most of you will be familiar with it. We call it the wake, or it's moved up to a more formalised removal. And in that tradition, what we have is, when someone passes, we put the body in the middle of the room, and we line up the loved ones a few metres away from the body in a hierarchy of loss. We line them up. And then the community turns up. And the community turns up to testify. And when I say the community turns up, and some of you in this room will know this already, where this tradition is very strong, I don't mean you might turn up. I mean, you will find that your relationships with your brothers, sister-in-laws, mothers, husbands, when they have passed away and you haven't turned up, you will find that relationship will be damaged. It is a social obligation upon you to turn up. The whole community turns up. What do we turn up for? Well, what do? Well, we line up and we walk in single file, past this row of loved ones. Many of them we don't know. Many of them are strangers to us. We might know one or two people in that lineup. And we have a formula of words, and we say, sorry for your loss, sorry for your loss, sorry for your troubles. Inane words, sorry for your troubles. And we all file by. Hundreds of us, maybe 1,000, maybe thousands. And the loved ones line up there. And the funeral director will have told the loved ones to wear comfortable shoes because they will be on their feet for hours. They have just lost a loved one. They might also advise them to take anti-inflammatory drugs and to take painkillers because their hand will be squeezed 1,000 times over until it swells up and bruises. Their ribs will ache and their shoulder blades will carry bruises from people who have hugged them as they have passed by them. It's pretty brutal. Why do we do it? What's it for? And while many people turn up and there's a compassionate togetherness and solidarity about it, as somebody pointed out to me, she said, these words that we speak, no matter what the words we speak, we're all saying one thing when we turn up to that removal and that wake. And what we are saying and what we are testifying to is they are dead, they are dead, they are dead, they are dead. 1,000 times over, they are dead. Because somehow the community has decided that any denial in this moment is unacceptable and that we must, as a community, gather and collectively move us through denial into grief, into the phases of grief, and we will do this together. But let me remind you of one thing that we may have lost sight of here. And that is that as we do that, as we make those assertions, as we testify in that way, there is a body 2 meters away. It is a dead body. You can touch it, the casket is open, you can hold their hand, you can kiss their forehead, many people do, many people even go in for a hug. It is cold. This is irrefutable evidence right here in front of us, in the middle of our living room. It is material, you can touch it, it is evidence. Yet we turn up as a community to testify what is right here in front of us. In Ireland, we've had 20 years, because we started early, of tribunals into institutional abuse, sexual violence, the treatment of women in institutions, women who dared to get themselves raped and to get themselves pregnant or to get themselves a little bit obstreperous and a little bit free. We've had the Murphy report itself is about that thick. If you piled up all the reports from all these tribunals and investigations, I think we're about waist deep in reports from all these investigations and all these tribunals. That is thousands and thousands and thousands of testimonies of victims and survivors. And what I put to you is the mantra. While each one of those testimonies is different, each investigation is different, the particulars, the institutions, the authorities that we're talking about, who's responsible, who should have done what, all those things differ. But there's a mantra that runs through all of those reports. And that mantra is this: everybody knew. Everybody knew. So here's the thing. We need to stop treating testimony like it's news. It's not news. Testimony is not about the truth. Testimony is about our denial. And so when we respond with shock to testimony, we are layering up the denial. We are refusing the lesson that we're being told when we're being given testimony. So that's the first thing. What are we doing when we behave with shock? Because maybe our shock is a little bit of a lie, and it's a lie to protect ourselves from the work that we're being given by that testimony, to look at our own denial, to ask ourselves, what body of evidence is in our own living room that we've been working our way around, ignoring? Have we spread the tablecloth across it? Have we invited our friends around? Have we had dinner over that body of evidence and discussed the state of politics today while that body of evidence is in plain sight to us? So our shock allows us to continue our narrative of denial. And the second thing we do then is that we look at this person in front of us and as allies, and what this person has said to us in some way, shape or form, they have said, I want to tell you about the harm that has happened to me in our systems of violence. Someone yesterday talked about our systems of domination. I talk about our systems of violence. What I mean by that is our families, our communities, our societies, our institutions, our justice responses, all of the things that make up our society. All of them, if we listen to survivors, all those testimonies, we know that people get hurt, and different people get hurt differently in those systems. They are systems of violence that most of us benefit from and we're all a part of. And so we take that sentence, let me tell you about the hurt I've experienced in our systems of violence, and we chop it off. Let me tell you about the hurt I've experienced. And we focus on the victim who has just testified. And we say, tell me more about your hurt. Tell me more about the harm that has come to you. Explain it to me in detail. Actually, the point wasn't their hurt. The point was our system of violence. And what we haven't done, what we're not doing when we are looking at that survivor, and again, let me repeat, this is not about the support that you would do for someone who is intimate to you or someone that you have a professional responsibility to. This is about the public testimony. So when we ask them, show me your pain, what we are doing is we are avoiding our own pain. We're avoiding looking at our own denial about our part, our complicity, our compromise within our systems of violence. And what's more, we also do this thing, and it's a really curious thing. We say to people, as allies, I want to tell you how courageous you are. I want to tell you how brave you are. I want to tell you how broken you are. I want to tell you how you will never heal. I want to tell you how you will heal. I want to tell you how strong you are, how brave, how joyful. And we have a mix of all of those. Can you imagine your response if a stranger walked up to you, in fact, even if a friend walked up to you, someone in a relationship with you walked up to you and said, let me tell you who you are and how you feel? I think you'd have red flags on that relationship, wouldn't you? In a domestic violence situation. That's what we do to survivors when they testify. We say, let me tell you who you are and how you feel. And from there, we move to, and let me now get on your team and stand beside you and be your supporter and your ally. Hashtag I believe you. Let me remind you, when we say, I believe you as a supportive thing, and I think there's something about this is the pathway we have walked ourselves into. This is a blind alley. When I say I believe you, what I am ignoring is that I already knew. I knew from the start. Your testimony did not tell me news. It challenged me. And so what I ask you today is maybe we need to start somewhere different. Because I think it's a blind alley, and I think it's one of the reasons why we can't quite explain how testimony gets us to change, because we've gone down this blind alley. And how about we start? And how about we're brave enough to start with, not I believe you, but I know that to be true. I know that to be true. I already knew that to be true. And let's see where that takes us. Thank you very much.